Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew with Supercharged Stocks. Happy Friday. Hello, Austin. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, Andrew. How about yourself?
Everything's great. We're heading into a long weekend for our American friends here. So we enjoyed ours last week. So we're here at the end of May, which is exciting because we're heading into June. But yeah, all is well.
Yeah, and interesting that you'd touch on the month of May and the end of May. What's the deal with this whole idea of sell in May and go away?
Yes, so that is actually a strategy. I would say it's a bit more historical in the making, but I think some people do it as a model, is that they'll actually sell out their equity positions in May, with the theory being that people take more of the summer off. You know, the kids are back from school. There's less happening. There's golf being played. You name it. All the things that happen in summer, business tends to slow down. So that is the theory behind it. And we won't go too much into it because some people still do it. There's lots of stats on the effectiveness of doing that. I would say that it's an interesting saying because the phrase actually originated in Old English, saying "sell in May and go away, but come back on St. Leger's Day." So it makes sense in a way if you are talking about an old school market, where if you're invested in the US or Canada, you're invested in Canadian companies that are doing business in Canada, then yeah, you'd know that most of your friends and neighbors and people, they're taking more time off in the summer. It would make some sense that things slow down. But ever since markets have become more, integrated, more globalist, they tend to stay, a large part of the US market rising has been FANG stocks, and those don't stop. They just continue going. So the idea that, once again, it kind of furthers that idea that the stock market today isn't a reflection of your economy or your how well your country's doing, especially whether it's Canada or the US, so much anymore. It's a fun old saying that made a lot of sense. But today, I think most people would say, maybe rotate your stocks a bit if you're a portfolio. We don't talk about portfolio management here because we don't want to give people any portfolio advice that we don't know. But it's just a fun topic to talk about and whatnot. So it's a neat concept. It's just one of these things that it gives a bit of history to the market and a bit of sense of context.
Well, yeah, it historically it makes sense, right? Like that's something theoretically you can understand that business slows down in the summer. Things aren't going to be as busy. There's not going to be as much happening. But kind of interestingly, on the flip side of that, in one sector that we pay a lot of attention to, isn't mining, doesn't the most amount of stuff, especially up in Canada and in BC, where you are in particular, isn't the mining sector's busiest month in the summer, some would argue?
Well, certainly on BC, because that's when things ramp up. So definitely there's cyclical plays, of course. Yes. So if you're looking at northern BC, especially that Golden Triangle, which is like very world renowned, then you're talking about a very short period of window of time to go up, do all of your drilling, soil sampling, all of that work during the summer months. That's the key time. So that's when, when we talk about a cyclical play, sometimes people will move from some of their stocks in other regions to focus on the Golden Triangle as all eyes shift over there to seeing who's drilling, what's it looking like, what's some of the news coming out. So when we see up there, I mean, there's lots of big names up there. I mean, there's of course Goliath, which we're keeping a very close eye on. That's really set up well for the summer. Also, Juggernaut is a very interesting property to take a look at. But there's huge names up there. Pretium is a producing asset up there. Skeena Resources, you name it. There's a ton of solid projects. Enduro actually is another interesting one. So there's no end to those that know a little bit about mining, that the Golden Triangle has an exceptional amount of potential, but it's a tough area because of the glacial mountainscape. It's rugged. It's a tougher space to work in, but it does suggest and hide a great deal of riches up there.
it kind of bodes the theory of, those companies that are brave enough to go up there and slug it out and deal with the adverse conditions and the difficulty even getting up there and stuff like that will be rewarded, because that there is such a rich amount of minerals and a rich base up there. Really, I mean, consistently we see companies out of there getting awesome results, no matter where they're drilling, no matter what they're doing in that range. So that's an interesting kind of idea to see it. That industry gets a nice little boost almost in the summer rather than the traditional kind of slowing and going away.
Yes. And I think this also, especially this summer, we're going to see, sometimes the retail market, it can have heavy influence. And I think we're going to see people out this summer. So I think this summer will be an aberration even to that old saying anyway, because there's going to be a lot of activity. It may not be flying and traveling, but there'll probably be traveling interstate in the States. Certainly the markets like Texas and Florida will be thriving. I doubt California will thrive, but some of those states will do very well and others won't. And there'll be lessons to learn from all of that, which leads into
very true.
Oh yeah, sorry. Which leads us
ahead.
into some of the other things that we wanted to talk about, which one of the articles that because we always like to talk a little bit about crypto, and I mean, of course, we can't not mention it. But Bitcoin's been having a bit of a rough ride. A lot of these cryptos, extreme volatility, and we see that the Bank of Canada came out with an interesting. I love it. They came out with an interesting caption the other day. Sorry. So they made the claim that Bank of Canada's digital currency would be greener than Bitcoin, the deputy says. So like all politicians,
what do you mean?
Yeah, like all politicians, you grab a piece of information and run with it, and spin it to whatever possibility and that you can to make it sound good. So I don't know if you've got any initial comments on that, but I've got a couple.
Well, I mean, serious comments or
any fun ones are great too.
I guess that means they're not going to be data mining it. They're going to be growing it in the ground, like a beautiful tree. And they're growing money trees, maybe. No, we've been talking about it. We said this sort of thing is coming. They're going to do the Fed coin. They're right out and saying, oh yeah, well, when we do it, it's going to be greener than Bitcoin. I don't know how you plan on doing that exactly, because to me, it's kind of, unless you've got an interesting energy play you're going to work in with it or something like that. But I mean, this is just kind of showing people, this is coming. It's coming here. It's coming in the States. It's coming in Europe. There will be a Fed coin. There will be that path forward. So interesting to see them openly talking about it.
Yes. And I was hoping that the comment would be in regard to some sort of strategy that they'd actually have, but there's none. There isn't a strategy. And that's where the distinction between the central bank digital currency, or a CBDC, and a cryptocurrency are they're not the same. You're not even remotely talking about the same thing. You're talking about a digital currency compared to a crypto currency as well. They're not the same. And the difference here that they're hinting at or talking about is that the main functionality of, say, Bitcoin is this ledger system in which you use integrated systems sharing data to verify transactions. That's the whole point of it. It's independent of one central authority. They would remove that function, and his response was because Canadians trust them so much.
Yes.
So this is the reasoning that they wouldn't need to do all of this interesting technology because the trust in government is so high. So not only is this a bit delusional, but it's laughable when you see this type of response to anyone who pays attention to these markets. It baffles me whenever someone's going to go and say, we're going to take the main functionality of a crypto and Bitcoin, and specifically, we're going to remove it, so that it doesn't do any of that encryption, it doesn't do any of the verifying, and we're just going to focus on giving you a digital currency. It's like, well, that's not the same thing even remotely. So yeah, you're not going to use as much energy for sure. So I just thought it was funny, but this is the type of thing you see all of the time. Every day I could pull 5 or 6 articles from anywhere. And I'm not picking on, we're showing Yahoo Finance. I mean, I could pick on any one of them. Fox, CNBC, CBC. CBC is definitely challenging because it's a state-run government media position. But it's amazing the way some of these things are worded. They're put out there. They're suggested. And for someone who doesn't understand cryptocurrency or anything, they would think, oh, well, that sounds great. We're going to have a Canadian crypto or Bitcoin, and it's not going to cost as much energy. It's like, no, you're not going to have anything remotely the same thing at all. So, anyways, a bit of a chuckle, a bit of a laugh, and I'm not trying to be too mean on this, but it's
interesting that. Yeah, the quote from here is saying, clearly there's a high degree of public trust in what we're offering. Is there? Is there really? And then the next part is digital currency. Trust is an important thing when we're bringing that to the table. I didn't have much trust in Chad token when I threw $500 at it. That was just for the fun, So I don't think they understand their target audience here either.
No, but it's a typical strategy of a political type. Is that if I keep on coming on and telling you that I have a lot of trust, if I keep on saying that, it's kind of like I'll pick on Trump because it's easy. If he keeps on coming out here and saying I'm great, there'll be a large part of the population that'll just go, he's great, because they've heard it enough on TV.
Great, he's wonderful. He wouldn't tell me. Yeah.
So politicians do this all the time, and it's a kind of PR 101. If you just come on and keep on repeating the same things over and over and over for a longer enough period of time, most people will just start believing it. And when you have every other institution of media helping that along and really relaying that story, people will just start repeating things, but have an attachment to that idea because it's coming from someone they like. It's coming from Anderson Cooper. Why would he tell me anything wrong? or whoever on whatever.
He's a nice guy.
He's a great guy. Why would he say anything wrong? And they don't actually think for themselves. They don't bother looking for anything. They don't bother investigating it. They just read it somewhere that, hey, it's greener. And that's it. And this goes pretty much across the board on every single topic you want to talk about. And if I challenge anyone, if I'm out in the street and I say, well, I mean, where did you find XYZ out? Who told you that? Inevitably, it'll be a Netflix series or TV or some host or sportscaster or LeBron James said something. And it's like, well, did you actually research any of that? Did you bother to look it up? So it's interesting. It's yes. Why would they lie to me? And then 2, oh, well, I wouldn't trust anything on the internet. I mean, if you're getting your information off the internet, which I hear all the time as well. And I think, what? That's like saying you don't get any of your information from a library. Why would you trust a library? It's so anyways, there's a lot there. And I like to talk about it because what's important is that it reveals there's a big gap today in critical thinking. People are just simply accepting what they're told because a quote unquote expert has told them something and not revealed any data or science or claim or evidence to support it. And I will pick on some people that run around. I find that people, when you talk about science, if they ever say the science, why were you arguing with the science? Inevitably, I'd say 99% of the time, they have no idea what science is. They have no idea what the evidence are even suggesting, where to find it, who said it, or where to find it at all.
Yeah.
And if you challenge them to send you something,
nor have they bothered to look. Yeah.
They won't look. No. Can you send me that science? Can you send me that report? They won't. And maybe the 2 out of 10 that might reach out and send me something, they'll send me an op-ed piece from a newspaper. And I'll say, no, that's not science. That's an opinion piece off a media outlet. That's not science. Anyways, once again, I like to highlight that because that isn't, once again, picking on the science, picking on this. That goes for everything. That goes for pump and dump schemes. That goes for politics. It goes for whatever topic you want to talk about. Is that there's a lot of people out there who feel they have the right to have an opinion on something that they have absolutely no idea, nor have any interest in researching, and will just go along with something if it's said on TV and they think it sounds good. And that's unfortunately how the world kind of works right now. And I think that we need, if we want to be responsible and we want to have a bit of control over our own lives and those of the people we love and care for in our community and our families, then it requires a little bit more effort on our own part to go verify claims. And like I said, if you have no interest in the topic, and I don't think most people should have any real interest in politics, it can be very mundane. But if you're going to have a strong opinion or you're going to try to enforce things, then you should really come from a place of intelligence and data and information. And that goes especially for the stock market, which kind of leads us into more of our fun. And I'll get away off my high horse of, enforcing people to read more and look at data a bit more. But it's, you know what, if you're really serious about something, yeah, come on, like put a little effort in, and challenge yourself, because there's lots of things that I don't like. I don't like to be wrong about X, Y, Z. And I will go, listen, you need to go look at the other side of that. So, because there's either I'm missing a point or I'm missing this or I'm missing that. And if I'm going to come on here and talk about, this green tech innovation world happening and the greening of everything and how copper's tied in, then I better have done my research. So if anyone comes on and challenges me, I'll be able to back it up with enough data and evidence from my site and everywhere else. And not just returns of stocks. I mean, that's great. We're getting some great returns. And I see the future looking wonderful. But there has to be, your model, your thesis that you're testing all the time, and evidence to support it, coming from. And often for me, there's work, but often I'll just say to people, listen, I rely on JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock Capital. They'll flat out tell you what they're doing. It isn't hard work for some of the stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it used to be, you'll get like the World Economic Forum. People, will get angry about that because of a lot of their policies. But they're very open about what their plan is. The UN is very open about specifically what they're doing with plans. That often people will say, "Oh, those are conspiracy theories." No, they're not. They're literally in their mandate. So it's on their website. I'll send it to people. They won't read it. They won't look at it because they don't. It just makes them feel uncomfortable. But besides the point, what I want to get into though quickly, and we could spend a whole day talking about this, is catching up with some of our friends over at Melvin Capital.
Oh yes.
And maybe you can fill us in on that little fun. Oh, I think we're losing you, Austin.
You betcha. Yeah, they had a fun last few months. Hang on, let's hold on a second, see if I can come back here.
Sure.
Let me know if we're good.
I think you're a bit better now.
Are we good here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So with Melvin Capital, they've had a very fun ride of things over the last few months. I've got the article pulled up there. They've lost more than 50% in a single month. I believe to the tune of about $6.5 billion. I think a good $4 billion of that was just the back half of March, beginning of April. It's fun because it's nice to see the hedgies lose on this one. It's nice to see the Wall Street bets meme stock gang get a bit of a win. I know, tons of those guys made a lot of money out of this as well. It's obviously not something I would consider an investment strategy, but it's always nice to see the little guy get a bit of a win in this situation. And it's nice to see that sort of predatory capital getting a bit of a punch back from people who've been punched by it. So just
I love it.
I was kind of wondering on the idea of short selling. Maybe you can elaborate it a little bit more, because obviously you got a bit more of the technical understanding than I do with this. But how does a company lose $6.5 billion shorting GameStop? How do I screw up that badly?
I think we should do. We'll talk quickly about it, but I think we should do a whole video on it, because it can be very intricate. But the best way to explain it was probably Popeye. You remember the Popeye comic? I'll gladly pay you for a hamburger today. No. What's the saying? My goodness. I
can't remember off the top of my head.
Yes. I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
There it is. Yeah.
So here's the idea of short selling: is you're going to borrow stock from a broker. And generally, if you're a Melvin Capital, you're getting exceptionally good rates. You're getting whatever deals you've got because you're a massive fund. and you're borrowing, say, GameStop, because you see that fundamentally you believe that it's not doing very well. It's trending down. Its market's being kind of torn apart. There's, and they would be fundamentally correct. It was a good bet to put on, and they've been doing this, to all sorts of companies. And you're basically profiting off of the downfall of a company or companies that's not meeting expectation, and you're pushing it down further. And when you're Melvin Capital side, you're purposely trying to push it down. Now, we'll get into the whole ethics of it and whatnot, but it's basically you want to profit in the market using instruments in any give or take form. And in this, it's the polar opposite to anything that I believe as far as investing, because it isn't investing. You're not investing in anything. You're wanting to get the stock and pay for it for a cheaper price because you believe it's going to do worse in the market. And at the end of the day, we have regulatory bodies that if you think the company is fraudulent or whatnot, then you let the regulatory bodies deal with it. You are hurting other shareholders that own that company whenever you aggressively go after a company, hoping it goes down, which is what they've been doing. And I think if we spend a whole episode just talking about short selling and kind of map it out, I think that would be better, because I could go on about 8 to 10 minutes on it. But I'll just leave it at that. I'm thrilled that they've lost so much money, because it's once again, it's completely opposite to what I think you should be doing, which is you encourage growth in your market. You encourage growth within your country and in your economy. You want people to succeed and you help them to succeed. And that's what investment banks often do, is that they'll try to work with a company if they're big enough and you're paying them to help find solutions, or a business and consulting group to help them re-strategize. That, I think, is a lot more better use of funds than saying, I think this company is not doing well, I'm going to punish them for it. Now, the real ugly side of that is what we're seeing all over the place. We saw it with Extra, we see it with MVMD, we see it with all of these short sellers, is kind of the reverse pump and dump, which is it's easy to go put out an article making fraudulent claims against a company. The pump, people notice a bit more. The old pump and dump, which is, I'm going to talk up a company, they've got a new discovery, they've got this, they've got that. Those don't seem to do as well today, because they're easier to check on. Just for some reason, the negative ones of, I found this negative thing about this company. For whatever reason, when we hear bad news, it seems to react to us a lot faster than the upside. We're a little bit more skeptical of the upside one, rather than we go, oh my God, panic, I better sell the stock. And they do that. They do that in all sorts of interesting and maniacal ways. And it's for profit, and it's just simply to make money. And once again, it's nuanced. At the end of the day, I haven't really spent a lot of time trying to think about it, because once again, it's polar opposite to the way I'd want to live my life. I don't want to go out there and find companies to punish and to cause their shareholders to lose more money so that I can make money. That creates no value. It creates a paper value to my fund, or to me. I get myself enrichment at the cost of others. I see it as being exceptionally predatory. I don't see that there's anything efficient about it in the market. Now, where it can be useful, and where we do see a lot, is that it's a zero-sum game when you're talking about finance and money, just as you're talking about most things, politics, any kind of power situation. It's a zero-sum game. And as much as we'd like to reframe it in the last few years about why can't we all get along, or even in the 60s when they tried to do it back then, it's a fairy tale utopia belief system that doesn't exist. It's better to be more realistic about things and understand that just because you might want to see the world with rose-colored glasses, there's a large percentage that don't view it that way, nor do they see you being an integral part of that future. So it can be used specifically as a weapon against other countries, against other companies. But once again, that's a bigger conversation and a bigger topic, and it's too nuanced to get into. But at the end of the day, I love to see the little group there on Reddit polarizing their people together, because they had suffered through 2008, watched their parents lose their houses, lose everything, as there was nothing was done in regards to any kind of change of policy. In fact, they just rolled 2008 forward with QE, pumped in more money to solve the problem. which they're doing continuously today, just pumping in more money, pretending that that'll have no effect. And, part of me gets worried when I say things like that because they've been able to do it for so long that it might continue. You've got a whole group of naysayers that are saying things like, hey, listen, we're going to have to pay the piper soon. And inflation's coming. So it's coming. But calling it, the doomsday side has been calling that for quite some time, but somehow magically we can somehow just keep on printing trillions. And as long as the people believe, and they believe stuff like this ties into our Canadian Treasury, respondent of the people have faith in the system, which we're not really seeing, then they'll believe. But the further that erodes and the further we go down this path, that erosion starts becoming very apparent. Anyways, that's a big, long answer there. I apologize, Austin.
Yeah.
But I think we've run out of...
That's awesome. That's exactly kind of what I wanted to get out of. Yeah, I was just about to say, I think we're running out of time here. Let's do an entire chat about short selling, because there were 3 or 4 things that you said there that came into my head. I was like, oh, I got to ask him about that. So let's save that. Let's do that at a later date when we can really dive into that and we can spend the full amount of time just breaking all that down.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much and have a great weekend.
Yes, you as well, Andrew. Take care.
Take care, everyone.